We're back.
Here we are. And guess what is going on? Well, if you can't see what's going on,
I'm on the couch.
she's on the couch. What do you guys think of Whitney being on the couch?
I'm on the couch, guys.
Guys, this is Between the Sheets with your host, Leah, and I am a photographer. I'm a mother. I'm a wife. I am an action-taking, money-making, manifesting queen.
Yes, ma'am.
Got my co-host.
WHITNEY period post. It's nice to see you guys again. We're back.
Yes, we are. And we, it's a little different today.
It is. It is a little bit different, but we decided to take it back to the basics.
Yeah, take it back to the basics.
Yes.
I like that.
Yes.
We have taken it back to the basics, and we want you guys to chime in. As always, we want you guys to chime in because the feedback that we've gotten thus far, we are listening to. I want you guys to know that we're listening to that feedback.
Yes.
And we are trying to implement those things to bring you guys the best value, the most, knowledge, wisdom, interesting conversations that we can have. And part of that was just getting back to the basics of, Whitney and I, just that comfort level that we've given our clients, the comfort level that we've given our listeners.
Yes.
And just getting you on the couch together with you and me.
Yes.
You and
Just
me,
us.
boo. That's
Just
it. Like,
us.
we're going to talk it out right now.
us,
So that's the difference between today and what we're going to kind of do. And we're going to dive right in.
Yes,
One of the other suggestions that you guys had was to make the podcast a little bit shorter because some people have really good attentive learning and they can stay focused for that long. And some people is not that long.
Yes, sometimes it goes in there and out the other.
Yes. So we might break this down.
Yes.
It always depends on how the conversation is flowing. If we feel like it's flowing and going, then we do want to keep going.
Yes, absolutely.
And if not, then we might break that up into 2 segments and see what you guys think and get your feedback. But you guys got to give us your feedback on the podcast.
Feedback, please.
We're trying to grow. We're trying to, keep conversation alive and keep you guys interested. But we definitely need your feedback. So keep chiming in, keep letting us know, DM us, PM us, whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
And let's hit it off. So today, we're going to talk about something, but I want to recap just a little bit.
Yes.
Okay. So, last week or when the podcast dropped, basically, when the podcast dropped, we were talking about, we were talking about everything.
Everything. We talked about everything, guys, relationship wise.
Yes.
What makes you stand the test of time.
Yeah. And it was a really good conversation. I feel like, I mean, it went really well. It flowed.
Yes.
It was probably one of the best that I had to listen to it, and I put so many clips out because I loved so many gems that were dropped during that, conversation. And it wasn't just because it was my anniversary or it was based on, that relationship, because that's kind of what we were basing it on was, how do you sustain a relationship?
Exactly.
Because I've been with my husband for this many years. I wanted to give advice and knowledge on that, but it opened up a whole can of shit that we talked about during that time. And some of it was a little bit controversial.
Yes. Some
of it was, opinion versus an opinion versus word. And so I want to touch base on that for just a few, because give me your thoughts. Like what was your overall?
My overall take back from the podcast was, one, I loved how kind of all over the place we were, because I guess I feel like it gives opinion on all different walks of life, on your beliefs. Pointed question back to that one that we kind of discussed a little bit, and he was like, do you want Christian Leah's response or do you want real world response? Which I feel like both of those are so necessary, because we don't know our listeners and we don't know them as much as we would like to. So giving that opportunity to give all of these different opinions and sides to each individual scenario that we discussed was, I feel like, important.
And I'm glad you said that, because, there was a point where Sammy said, well, is it different?
Right.
And I said, yeah, it's different. And here's why. The word is alive and active. It's constantly moving. I will 100% stick to that all the time. But there are things in the words like women should cover their heads.
Right.
Women shouldn't wear makeup.
Right.
Women shouldn't wear jewelry.
Right.
Women should be quiet in the church. And, if we're following one thing, then we should be following them all. And Jesus basically told us from the get, like, that's really difficult, guys.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to follow one, you better follow all, and good luck with that. Because that's basically what he was saying.
Yeah.
And so we do have to ask ourselves, okay, well, is this relevant? Yes, his word is relevant always, but it's because it's actively live and moving.
Right.
And at the same token, I will say that, some of these things are prevalent or relevant in today's what we're speaking about, because and let me just turn this off really quick, because can you hear that? Can you guys hear that in the other room? My phone is like, who's bugging me? Like, don't you guys know that I'm in a podcast right now? And guess what? It's probably my sister on Market Face sending me stuff. Yeah, because I saw the message come up. But what I'm saying is that we do have to say, well, here's what the word says, but here's what, this is part of, like, living through these times, living in a different age, living in a different time that is kind of speaking a little bit differently. Yes. Now, I want to also say with that, I never want to be a burden to anybody. What I say is not correct. It just works for me in many fashions and forms. Correct. What Sammy said might work for her in many fashions and forms. What Whitney says may work for her. And that's why we do what we do, because there's different opinions.
Yes.
Is one right or one wrong?
Yeah, no, I don't. I think that goes into the whole topic of what we're going to get into, but it brings up that double standard type thing. And it brings up, you can't, what did my mom call it when we were younger? You can't be, and excuse my language, a half-ass Christian. Like, you can't habitually line step.
Right.
You've got to pick one or the other. There is no gray area.
Well, that's what the word says. He says that you're neither hot nor cold, so I'll spit you out.
Yes.
Like lukewarm water.
So that's tough, especially when, like what you said, the day and age that we're living in, how different things are now. How people can be influenced by social media, by other relationships. I mean, there's just so many different ways that it can shape and mold us in our decisions and what we're making, the decisions that we're making, how we handle certain situations, like that question that we brought up, we brought up on the last podcast, you guys need to go listen, but we brought up about, what if your partner wants to bring somebody into the bedroom, is that appropriate? Is that, by the word, it's super inappropriate. Right. But there's some people that live in this day and age that would see it and be like, well, I could see how.
Well, I talked to my partner about it. My partner feels okay with it we feel okay about it. The bedroom's undefiled, so why not allow it? Right. You know what I mean? And then it goes up for argument again. Yeah. And so, all of these things that we talk about, first and foremost, what I love about the podcast is that, like I said, it's open, it's raw, it's authentic. We are giving you guys real deal answers without worrying about, is this right or wrong? Right. Now, what's ingrained in me, what I know is, very biblically based, very word based and things of that nature. But I always say I'm a different kind of Christian. Yeah. And I say that to say, because I'm not going to try to live this perfected, person, like I'm so perfect and I do nothing wrong and this is how you should live, because it's bullshit. Yeah. Like, that's why I cuss every now and then. It's because you're trying to live this standard of fake that people can see right through. Right. Let's be real. You have as many skeletons in your closet as I do in mine. Once we can get real about that and help each other work through those things, it changes the room. It changes the relationship.
It brings it back to that, my whole thing of, God wants us to just come as we are. Yeah. All the time.
Correct.
It doesn't matter if we get dressed up for church or if we come in sweats. Yeah. It's the same concept with everything else.
I guess the question would be then, does he want you to stay there?
Oh, of course not. Yeah. I don't think he ever wants us to stay
stagnant, not move. And that's what's really important, I think, too, is that when we come, like he does, God will accept us however we are, but he also calls us to grow, to change, to imitate, to not be perfect, but progress, try something different.
Perfectly imperfect.
That's correct. Yes. That's correct. So I'm glad that we kind of recapped on that. And going forward, I think we're going to stick with some of the suggestions that we had as keeping it a little bit more biblically based. And I say that again, okay? So I'm not trying to turn off my viewers either, because that's not what it's about. When I give my Bible studies, when I'm in a room with women, we are real, okay? And I struggle just as much in understanding or learning or being like, ugh, this one doesn't feel good to me. So many scriptures don't. Right. And so we're going to kind of get into that today.
Medicine doesn't always taste well.
Oh, yes. There you go, girl. Yucky. Yeah. Many times it does. That's right. I have my handy dandy notebook with me today.
That's the medicine, y'all.
There's a lot of medicine in here. As I was reading back, though, it was funny. A lot of my studies, a lot of, my own personal journaling and things of that are in here. And a lot of things have changed for me. Yeah. Since writing these things. And so as I go through some of this, I think it'll be interesting to see, if I can even question myself of like, oh, here's this writing. But today we're going to be talking about taking ownership.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
What does that mean to you?
Oh my gosh. Taking ownership of me, myself, and I. Being responsible. Holding myself accountable. A lot.
Taking ownership. So own, right?
Yes.
Own your shit.
Ownership.
Ownership.
Yes. Own your shit. You do. You've got to own it. You've got to sit in it. You've got to own your shit.
It's a hard one.
Like I said, it's medicine. Medicine is always good to take.
and really, it's one of the hardest things to do as a kid, right? Can you think of a situation where you didn't take ownership when you did something that was wrong?
Anytime I would get in trouble.
By the way, guys, I love Kid Whitney. I love little Whitney. I wish that there was if somebody could create a meme or somebody could create a character of little Whitney, learn her personality and create a little girl as Whitney. I would love to see it because little Whitney was badass, but she was funny and I could just see it. Anyways, go ahead, Whitney.
So and I don't know why this specific thing comes to mind, but y'all know I've always been into cosmetology, makeup, girly stuff. So my mom was laying down one afternoon taking a nap, and I had gotten, I don't know if you guys remember the Disney store that used to be in the mall.
Yes.
And I got
right on the corner.
Yep. I got one of the Minnie Mouse, nail polish, lipstick, the little play makeup set, and I was not allowed to play with that unless Mom was up. Oh. Well, I climbed the shelf and knocked everything off the shelf.
Home Alone moment.
She was still asleep. But I painted all my dolls' nails and I did all their makeup and I was in a lot of trouble. And I tried to be like, no, I didn't do that.
Who did it then, Whitney?
Exactly. And she used to tell me all the time, she's just like, you're going to be in so much more trouble if you don't just take accountability and tell me the truth than lying to me.
Oh, God, we tell our kids the same thing.
More disappointed in you for lying to me than telling me the truth. Mm-hmm. And I struggled with that as a kid.
I think we all struggle with that as a kid because Mom and Dad will tell us, look, you're not going to get in trouble or you're going to get in less trouble. You're still going to get in trouble.
It's a setup.
But you're going to get in less trouble if you tell me the truth now.
Yes.
If I find out about a lie, it's going to be double times as worse for you.
Yes. You're going to wish you never did what you did in the first place.
Yes. That's crazy. So, I mean, why as adults do you think that it's still hard? So as kids, we know, a situation like that, right. We know how difficult it is. We're scared to get in trouble. We're I guess that's it. Ultimately, is that we're scared to get in trouble. Yeah. So, do you feel like it's actually the same then for adults?
In certain situations, in certain scenarios, yes. I feel like as adults, we try to be able to choose what we're going to hold ourselves accountable for and what we're not. Majority of the time. Mm-hmm. So I think as adults, sometimes we can write it off because it's like, oh, I'm a grown up. I don't have to explain myself.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which is crap because you do. That's why you were taught these things as a child to get you to where you are now. So you don't make those same stupid mistakes. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
So I guess another question that I have written down here is, do you find it hard to take responsibility in your own relationships?
Oh my gosh. That depends on the relationship.
Why does it depend?
Friendships, yes. I will be the most humble, raw, realistic,
okay, I see where you're going with this.
Relationships, absolutely not. I'm right, you're wrong, and this is how we're playing this out. And I'm not taking accountability. You have enough to take. Just kidding.
You're not kidding because you're just.
It's different.
I do always question. Whitney will tell me some situations in a relationship, and I'm like, okay, let's put the shoe on the other foot really quick. She's like, no,
I don't want to.
Not doing that. So that's a good. That's definitely a good example. I would say for me. Same thing. I am open, and I always tell people, whether I work with you, whether you're my friend, whether, it's hold me accountable. I always say, check me.
Yes.
I say, check me. If I need to be checked, check me.
Yes.
And I'm okay with it. I'm a big girl. I have big girl panties on. Let's do this. You know what I mean? With my husband, I'm like, who the heck do you think you are? Right. What are you trying to tell me? No, but I'm not going to hear that. So I get it.
You're not telling me no.
I think also the boss, Leah, it's sometimes hard to be, open to taking ownership in certain things. We'll talk about double standards next week or next time, where that can play a role in my business as well. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I want to just bring up a scripture really quick and kind of fill out, what you're thinking, because taking ownership is difficult. And I think there is some double standards in there that we have to look at. One of which being Matthew 5:38. So it's just funny how double standards is already coming into this podcast. Right. But Matthew 5:38 says that you say an eye for an eye. Okay, this is Jesus talking to the people, to the disciples, and he's basically saying, you say it's an eye for an eye, right? But then he says, but I tell you that if somebody slaps you on your right cheek, turn your left to them so they can slap that one too.
If you gonna go for it, you might as well go all the way.
So how does that play into role into taking ownership? What does that even mean? Or is it just the fact that sometimes we have to humble ourselves?
That's what I was just about to say. You have to, in that scripture, you would almost have to humble yourself or eat your words or bite your tongue to turn that other cheek. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's hard.
Mm-hmm. Really, really, really hard. First and foremost, as offensive as that may be, I think that what we tend to look at almost immediately is you hurt me.
Yeah.
You inflicted pain. Yes. You caused hurt. You wounded me somehow. And that's all that matters.
What's the get back like?
Well, and not only that, but do you or have you said, what's my part in this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm not saying that person that cheated on you, that was your fault. I'm not saying that if you got, abused, that was your fault. That we're not saying that. Right. I'm not saying that. Right. I am saying in a situation where things are getting heated or something has happened, it's always good to stop and reflect and say, okay, what was my part in that? And that I think is a huge, it is the part of taking ownership.
Well, and it's one of the hardest lessons, and I haven't probably learned that lesson until after the divorce. And I didn't realize, I always heard my mom say it when she was referring to, like, my parents' divorce, and she was like, I'll always eat 50%. Mm-hmm. I'm not eating 100, but I'm going to eat 50.
Yeah.
I'm not eating the whole 100, though. You got to hold yourself accountable as well. So
50-50 is hard. 50-50 taking 50%, that's tough.
That's a lot.
I don't know if I would say 50-50. I'd be like maybe 60-40.
But that was my lesson that my therapist told me that. She was like, what are you taking accountable for the buildup of this? Because you weren't just in a relationship by yourself. Mm-hmm. What actions, what words, how was your behavior? That all stems into the same situation.
Well, I like that you used the word actions. So my next question then would be, so because you use that word, is how do we take accountability for our actions?
How do we do it? I mean, like, first, I feel like for me, verbalizing it and speaking it to somebody else or to myself, acknowledging it, not just thinking about it, and letting that be a part of my story to others, to myself. Because I feel like if you're not verbalizing it or writing it down or doing, like, what are you really holding yourself accountable for?
So when you're saying that you're keeping yourself accountable, are you saying that you're speaking it to the other person, or you're writing something down?
To the other person, I'm writing it down, or I'm not sugarcoating. Like, and, people like to be victims. Mm-hmm. So when I'm
justify,
sitting in it and saying, no, I was wrong for this. This is what I did wrong. I'm holding myself accountable, and this is how I'm not going to do this again.
How much is pride a factor in that?
Oh, my gosh. It's everything.
And what do you think that men hold more pride than women?
No. I am so prideful.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that. I thought for sure you were going to be like, yes. I know, that's good, because
I am my pride and arrogance is, woo, when it mixes with the two, depending on what it's about. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Pride's a hard thing to strip off.
It is really
It's embarrassing.
hard.
It makes you feel naked. It makes you just feel like, ugh, like, now I do have to sit in what I did, like my part in it. Ugh, it's not a good feeling.
Proverbs, in the word Proverbs talks a lot about wisdom and pride and things of that nature. Yes. It really speaks a lot about pride. One scripture that I have written down here is Proverbs 18:2, where it says, "A fool finds no pleasure in understanding." Okay, and basically what it says is that he only really wants to hear his own opinion.
He don't want to hear nothing anybody else got to say.
Right. we were talking, Chris and I were talking about it before the podcast, and it was really interesting how he kind of interpreted that scripture and how I interpreted that scripture. It says, but that his heart discovers itself. And another application basically said that he only wants to listen to his own opinion. Right. But pride is a major factor of that, because pride is a byproduct of something else, and everything that comes off of pride is a byproduct off of pride.
Well, and pride is necessary. Like, I don't want to like put it out there that like being prideful is a bad thing. I think there are certain scenarios when
2 different types of pride.
Yes, but majority of the time it's not good.
When it comes to not allowing ourselves to take accountability in a situation, or humbling ourselves, I should say, and saying, look, I was wrong, you're right, which, guys, this is so hard to do. It's such a difficult thing to do, to say, I was wrong, you were right. Like those words, if we could practice one thing throughout the next couple of weeks, husbands to wives, wives to husbands, friends to friends, relationships, business. I was wrong, you were right.
Yes.
And just stop. Don't tell me why. Yep. Don't justify. Don't, explain, but this, and that, because then it doesn't feel like there's even like taking ownership with that, correct?
Yes.
And we'll talk about that in just a second, when people do actually take ownership, but they don't. They take it back at the same time.
They're blind stepping.
Yes. Yeah. But being prideful is, the word says that pride comes before a fall.
Yeah. Because you're trying.
Pride comes before a fall, comes before the fall even. Yes. And I think it's something to really consider, because if you can't sit and humble yourself every once in a while and say, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Then you really need to check yourself. You need, first and foremost, before you can even check yourself, I think that you have to take ownership to say, I'm doing that.
Yes. That's what I mean about speaking it. Like, if I don't acknowledge it, then it's just, which I know thoughts are just as bearing as speaking it. But when you say it, and when you say it to somebody else, like, no, I was wrong.
How many not even conversations, how many arguments could be stopped if we just said, you're right.
Yeah.
And meant it, genuinely meant it, authentically meant it, though. Yes. Like, stop allowing this to go. Well, I'm going to explain why I'm right. And well, you're wrong in this, and blah, blah, blah. And just say, you know what, you're right. Like, how many arguments could actually be stopped due to that? Yeah. Conflict is inevitable, right?
Yes.
Between husbands and wives, friendships, business, amongst people that we love, people that we work with, or people that we just plain don't like.
Yeah.
So how do we take ownership with the people that we don't like? Do we do it quietly? I'm curious to know your thoughts.
The
reason why I ask,
I'm not taking ownership for shit about somebody.
Well,
I'm just
the
kidding.
reason why I ask is because as a Christian, we know that we're supposed to.
Yes. Yeah.
Right or wrong.
Yeah.
If somebody slaps me on this cheek, then I'm supposed to turn and let you slap me on the other cheek. Leah Flesh.
No, I'm about to slap the shit out of you.
Yeah, we about to fight. Like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, so it's easy, and the word says it itself. It's easy to love somebody that you love. And he basically says, what benefit is there? What benefit is loving somebody that, loves you back?
Right.
He says, what benefit is that? Right. He said, but try loving somebody that doesn't love you.
Yeah. That's hard.
That's
so hard. Well, I don't want to show them love.
We're also we are. But
that's ugly. That's not nice behavior, and ugliness begets more ugliness, and it's just gonna. I mean, you're creating karma if you don't. You're creating every action has a reaction. So if your reaction is to be evil, mean, and nasty to somebody that you can't stand, that's what you're gonna get back.
Oof. If you think about it from that aspect, and knowing that everything that you're putting out, you're receiving, because you reap what you sow. Mm-hmm. If everything that you're putting out, you're going to receive, would you think differently?
Right. Would you want to receive what you put down?
And maybe that's a great question to ask yourself when you're getting into conflicts, or when you're not wanting to take ownership, is asking, how would I want this situation to be handled?
That's a good check me moment.
It's a good check me moment. So not only am I asking myself, what was my part in this? Then asking myself, is this how I would want to be, reacted to with, is this the treatment that I would like to receive if I were in this position? Right. No. Put ourselves in the other shoes. Because what can happen is we are creatures of habit. Mm-hmm. So what we've been doing and what we know, if we don't change it, then we go back to setting those same patterns.
Reverting back to what's comfortable.
And nothing changes if nothing changes.
Yep.
Let me say that again. Nothing changes if nothing changes.
Yes.
Very simple.
Yep.
You have got to start creating new patterns, new habits, new things in order to see a difference in your life. If you think that what you're doing is working and it's still creating the same old shit,
right,
then it's a you thing.
Yep.
And whether that's a you thing, meaning I need to get out, I don't need to be here anymore. I don't want to be in the relationship. I don't want to be at the job. I don't want to be in this friendship. I don't want to, you have to make changes to make that move. Right. Yeah. So I guess another thing that I want to ask is so back to the question of having somebody that you just can't tolerate.
Right.
Okay. How do you take responsibility? Like, is there something in there that, I'll say, this is what I do always say. So I'm going to answer kind of my own question, then I want to get your feedback.
Right.
95% of the shit that I put out there towards somebody else, if I'm being ugly, if I have something ugly to say, is a me thing.
Yeah.
It's something internal. Something internal is going on that I've decided to blah and vomit at you, but it's because of what I'm feeling inside. Right. The other 5% of people just suck.
Yeah.
They're just shitty people. They're really just shitty people.
Pretty much.
Or
their decisions and choices and how they're behaving is
shitty. Yeah. So when you're in a situation like that, or you're in some kind of, it could just be someone you can't stand at the office.
Oh, after I almost fought that night. But being forced to be around like somebody you consider your enemy, somebody who's taken advantage of you, taken advantage of your trust, you name it, and having to be around that person and still behave like an adult. Mm-hmm. Oh no, I was ready to cut up. We were right next to each other in the bathroom, like, ugh. The good person in me is what kept me from keeping my shit together.
Well, and I'll just have to say that you need to give yourself a little bit more credit for the restraint that you have, I think, because you have been in some crazy situations a while ago, that when I heard the way that you reacted, I was really proud. I was like, wow, like that took so much restraint to be able to not like react to somebody like just blah at you, putting, just even calling you out your name.
Yes.
And the way that you held up to that was very inspiring.
Because at the end of the day, in that specific issue, like I still have love for that person. It's not in my nature to not have love for that person. I'm disappointed in their actions and I no longer trust them. Mm-hmm. And so there's boundaries that need to be made, period. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to allow your nastiness to get me out of my character, because that's what you want for me ultimately. I know that's what you want. You want me to step out of character. You want me to smack the shit out of you and smack the other side of that cheek. But that has taken practice. Lots of practice.
Well, I just think that that's something definitely to be inspired by, because that's always been a tough thing for me.
Hard.
I'm actually a pretty calm, cool, collective person until I see red. And when I see red, it's a really, really bad situation. It takes me a lot to see red, but when I see red, it's like something shifts, and I have fought so hard to not be that person, any longer.
Yes.
And another person that I really admire is Reina, who, like, when the way that she handles herself in so many situations, I'm like, how in the hell did you like not like love? You know what I mean? So it's something really highly to speak of. Do you refuse to give in? That's not even a question you should answer, because you've already told us that you do. In other relationships, you refuse to give in.
Yes.
Do you stubbornly feel the need to be right, just because it's out of pattern?
Yes. Depending on the situation, but and wouldn't even say it's always being right. It's just if somebody, and this has always been my issue with communication, if somebody came at me and I felt like they actually were listening to where I was coming from, just as much as we're supposed to be expected to step into the other person's shoes.
Right.
I think I would be a little bit softer in that aspect, but it's so, like you said, pattern. It makes me go right back to, no, I need to protect myself, and this shit ain't gonna happen, so this is what I'm gonna do. This is how I'm going to handle this.
Yeah.
But again, I would say that it depends on the situation and the nature of the situation.
And when, I guess I would also say, and I want to add this in, is I think for, wow, that's 30 minutes. See?
Right?
That's 30 minutes.
That's crazy.
That's fast. That's super fast. We're going to keep going just a little bit longer because that's super fast. But, I'm glad that we're looking at the time and just kind of figuring this out because that is fully packed right there. And I want to get into this next segment because, I feel like, and I'm not picking on men here, guys. Okay, so I don't want you guys to think that, but I feel like men have a really difficult time with